You've got big projects to tackle, but your day gets swallowed up by repetitive tasks and constant inquiries. It's hard to make progress when you're stuck putting out fires. That's where Element 451's AI assistants come in. Acting like an extra set of hands, you get your time back for the high-impact projects. Ready to reclaim your time? Visit element451.com/AI team to learn more.
Hi, I'm a higher ed social media manager, and I have a confession. I never really had any aspirations of writing a book. But I guess you never know what the universe has in store for you. My guest today is Mallory Wilsey, Chief Strategist and Producer at Enrollify, and today, the 1-year anniversary of my book release, she will be interviewing me. Welcome to Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager, a podcast that addresses the do's, don'ts, and dynamics of the digital ecosystem specific to higher education. I'm your host, Jenny Lee Fowler. Join me every other week for discussions with some of the best minds in higher education social media management and marketing. Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Mallory Wilsey, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for being willing to play the role of host or guest host this episode. I really appreciate that.
Of course, Jenny. I was so honored that you invited me. And what an exciting day, listeners. If you are tuning in on the day this episode drops, Jenny's book just hit its official 1 year from its release. Jenny, congratulations.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Yeah, I guess my book baby is 1 year old. It's crazy.
Such a milestone. And what an incredible year I feel like it has been for you. And Jenny, you have officially been a creator on the Enrollify network now for a year, hosting Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager. What a year you have had. Congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
I'm just really curious to hear. I mean, I'm sure it's been a whirlwind, but how has your life changed? Like what's happened since you released this book?
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, and it's true. It's like shortly after I released the book, you all invited me as a guest, and it just, took over from there. But I have to say, this whole process, this whole year has been incredibly humbling, because first of all, when you think you have ideas that you write down on paper, that's terrifying because you don't know if people are actually going to like what you write or think it absolutely stinks. But it's, the book has been well received, and there have been amazing people that have been, reaching out in various ways and letting me know how much that they appreciate it. And so it's just been incredibly, incredibly humbling. It's opened the door to this and all of the speaking engagements and all of the opportunities to even travel abroad. It's been wonderful.
Well, I'll say, as someone who has watched you have just an incredible year, and, played a small part in that year, it's really just incredible. And kudos to you. I totally get that feeling of, okay, I've just published something, and are people going to like it? Are they not going to like it? Like, I think I feel that way, Jenny, every Monday morning when we drop a Pulse episode. So I totally get that. But at the scale of an entire book, I mean, it's really awesome. And I feel like from your role at MIT, you just, and all of your experience, you just have so much to bring on the topic of organic social media.
I appreciate that.
So yeah, you deserve all the flowers is what I'm getting at, Jenny. You really do.
Oh, thank you, Mallory. Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about how this past year's gone, and since the book was published, what have you learned? And is there anything that maybe you'd change? Any recommendations in the book? Like social media just moves so fast, so it strikes me that sometimes like the day something about social media is published, like it could almost be out of date, like blue sky, right? Blue
Yeah.
skies happened,
Yeah.
and so we'll get to that, but yeah, just tell us what you've learned, Jenny. I'm
Yeah,
curious.
I would say the big lesson that that I've realized is that the challenges that I faced early in my social media career, people are still facing those challenges and those same frustrations, and the pain points and the challenges that we face in the U.S. Social media managers like throughout the world are facing the same things. We have challenges of managing upward, educating people, having just about like the lessons of social media literacy and digital literacy. We all face them in the entire not just in this country but in other countries. So one thing I've really learned was, gosh, we still have a lot of work to do, in pushing the profession forward. It's like the industry has become this billion-dollar industry, but the social media manager as a profession is still not it hasn't kept up with how much the industry has grown, or how the profession has, well, the professionals have kept up, but the profession itself is not looked upon as this high level profession. It's not a junior level job anymore, and that's where I think we still have a lot of work to do. But thankfully, well, I do have a funny story. It's funny because I still refer to X in my book as Twitter, because at the time it was Twitter, and almost like 2 months after the book dropped, Twitter became X. But the funny thing is, a lot of people are still calling it Twitter, and they still know it and recognize what Twitter is now X. But the way that I approach the book is not platform specific. It's very platform agnostic, and I approach it as in how I think about strategy and how I organize strategy, and the difference between tactics and strategy. And I even have like conversation tips on how to have difficult conversations with your supervisor when your supervisor is forcing you to take on a new platform, or maybe someone's asking you to post a PDF, and you get and these are questions we get asked over and over again. And so I thought I would help my maybe younger audience or new social media managers navigate these conversations, just because I've had to, and I've learned a thing or two. So I tackle it from a very sort of general aspect. And I think one thing that marketers and social media professionals and new professionals have found, it's just helped them across the board. So hopefully that way, I didn't want this to like age too fast, right? And because social media, like you said, does go so quickly, but I wanted to have it provide value over a number of years.
Yeah.
And I think I've done that. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I am sure that anyone who, whether their role is 100% focused around social media, or even if it's just a percentage, I am sure that these readers feel seen in your book. You, a few minutes ago, were talking about some of the perceptions that still exist in, to your point, what is a multi-billion-dollar industry, yet we still immediately go to the joke that it's the intern who
Intern.
sent that wrong LinkedIn post or
Right.
whatever. And in what other place? I can't think of another area of marketing and communications where we make that joke. And it is, it's a lack of respect for the people who are
Thank
doing this
you.
work.
Thank
Like
you, Mallory.
it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's frustrating that we haven't evolved beyond that in the last
Yeah.
decade, huh?
Yeah, totally. Like when there's this running joke, and it's a joke because it still sort of happens when leadership or, supervisors say, "Oh, my niece has this idea for a social media strategy."
Cool.
So yeah, social media is so complex. I mean, would you put your niece out there in front of media to do like a press conference? I mean, yeah, this is a person um, that is leading your brand in this space, and so it really is not a junior level position anymore. But thank
Yeah.
you, Mallory. Yeah,
Well, and you also mentioned that you in this book give some tips to folks who need to manage up. And I think that's so important because, again, it's this perception of, oh, well, you can just post this video and make it go viral. Or here's this very non accessible document. And why can't we just tweet it out or, exit out or whatever the lingo is these days? And I think that, so again, kind of unfairly, people who find themselves in these social media manager, director roles are also forced to educate their CMOs about what is meaningful content and how to appropriately, share that content in spaces so that it is accessible to everyone. And so, that's the like, that's the burden the social media team has to bear.
yeah,
And I think the fact that you address that kind of head on in this book and give some real actionable tips around that is just so important. So I have to ask, for someone who hasn't read your book yet, what are two hot tips
yeah.
that they might take away that may
Okay.
entice them to go find a copy of this book tomorrow?
And just to lay some context, I think that we're going to continue to have these conversations because the folks that are in leadership positions, as long as they're of a generation that didn't grow up using social media or in a
Mm-hmm.
digital, so that's the divide, right?
Yeah.
Those are in, and then those that are in the positions have never known a world without social media, and they're digital natives, right? So that's the but I do say in the book that if you're in these positions, you're on this carousel of education. You're constantly, answering the same questions. You're constantly sort of giving the same tips, the same lessons, but you have to be graceful about that because
Mm.
it's just part of the job. So I think, one thing, and I'll bring back sort of the PDF when you get asked, someone asks you to post something that is not socially, it's not good social content. I just tell them to say something positive, make it sound like a yes, but don't make any promises. And so, I always say something like, I'm happy to take a look at it. But I tell them I would post it? No. I told them I'm happy to take a look at it. So I am always happy to take a look at it, but put the onus on them to follow up with you, right? Because I found that 9 out of 10 times they don't follow up with you. They just check, they say, okay, I've given it to the social media manager. I check the box, and they're not in the spaces, so they don't know that you didn't post it, right? But every now and then someone will say, did you post it, or I didn't see it up, can you send me the link? Then that is the education moment, because that
Mm-hmm.
person is actually interested in getting their content posted on the channels that you manage. Just say, oh, so then you say you promised you would take a look. I did take a look at it, and here, it didn't quite meet what we're looking for channel X or channel Y or whatever, and use that to educate and say, next time, if you make it in this size, this image, give me alt text, I will be more than happy to post it. We'll
Yeah.
take a look and then we'll post it. So I I just say, don't say no. Don't, I mean, make it sound like a yes and don't promise anything.
Hey, that's a great tip for anybody. There is art in being able to give a response like that. And so, whether you're a social media manager or not, there is a takeaway there for you. Jenny, I want to shift gears just a moment because it's been like such a charged fall for so many reasons, but especially because of the election. And I'm curious just to get your perspective on, what the social media climate is like these days, and now that the election's over, like, has it settled down, or has it continued to get more and more polarized? Or, I guess I don't even know. So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So I will say it has settled down, but Mallory, it's been eerily quiet. I think a lot of social media managers were bracing for more like we won, sort of like this chance of victory kind of thing from one side over another. And it's just not present, and it's spooking. I have to say it's spooking me out a little bit because I'm wondering like when is it gonna hit, you know? So I don't know. So there's that, and the other side of me is like, it's sort of peaceful right now. I'm gonna take the days of quiet as I get it. Um, but also I think people like this it's very, I don't want to get it into it too much, but I think platforms have become polarizing too in which platforms people are selecting. Um and that's emerging. I'll just say that.
Well, I finally deleted the X app from my phone. I don't know the last time I had actually clicked into it,
Yeah.
but this fall I finally actually removed it entirely from my phone, and there was like a weight that I felt lifted off of my shoulders as I did that. Now I still have an account, but I have picked up on the fact that it seems like in the last few months there's been a resurgence in people leaving X entirely. And I wonder if it's back to your points around the polarization of some of the platforms themselves.
Yeah, I don't know, it feels that way, right? And let me ask you, you have probably haven't missed it at all, right?
Oh no, I haven't even noticed, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love that for you, and I think people who think that they will miss it, they should know they won't if they haven't
Yeah.
used it in a long time. Yeah, yeah,
Well, I'll tell you, Blue Skies really replaced it for me. And I'd love to get your thoughts on Blue Sky now that there's been, I think, right after AMA, which we were both at, people got home, and I don't know what happened, but all of higher ed Marcom woke up the next day and was like, maybe we go to Blue Sky. And it was like one person went, and then two people, then three, then four, and then all of a sudden 200 people are there. And it feels to me, because I was in a social media manager role in 2009, 10, 11 out of college. And it feels like that time again to me, a time of, a linear news feed and the simple beauty in that. But also like this place for experimentation. There's no rules there. Anything can go. I'm posting everything from my spin playlist to early releases of new AI content. And it feels like this beautiful, like accepting community. But that's just from my pretty limited perspective of being a casual user over the last couple months. What are your thoughts, Jenny?
yeah, totally. So the interesting thing about that is that those of us like in our generation, right? We're going to Blue Sky, and the algorithm is more pure, right?
Yeah.
It's more like the algorithm of early Twitter. And for us, it's such a breath of fresh air, and we're loving it. And we're appreciating that. But interesting enough, if you talk to those in Gen Z and that are getting on to Blue Sky, they're like, I don't I don't like this. They're like, this is a mess. They're like, I want the algorithm to feed me what I want. And so that is like that is the TikTok generation,
Wow.
right? But the TikTok curates for them, right? And
Yeah.
and and Instagram somewhat does that too. Um And so they're kind of at a loss, like, well, I don't even see anything like, what is this? This is sort of a, so it's interesting. It's like all of those who once upon a time really liked Twitter are on Blue Sky, but I don't know if you're going to see Gen Z, or maybe not even Gen Alpha as much on it. So it's really interesting. But
Hmm.
I do think anytime there's this major announcement that does have to do with the CEO of X and the government, I feel
Mhm.
like you're just going to see another batch go off of X and maybe onto Blue Sky. But I think you're just going to see sort of these like groups of exoduses as
Hmm.
people start to say, okay, that's my cue, or
Yeah.
um yeah,
Hmm.
I think we're gonna see that.
Interesting. I mean, like, if I'm sitting here like mind blown emoji. Like, what? There's someone who doesn't like the blue sky
I know.
like time feed. What? Like, that's a generational difference right
That
there
is
for sure.
exactly, that's a generational difference in just how we've learned to consume
Yeah.
content,
Wow.
and the preferences. It is really interesting. Yeah.
Anything else happening out there in social media right now that we haven't talked about? Maybe AI. That's like my favorite topic.
I mean, yeah, I mean, AI is like the second language we all need to learn how to
Mm,
speak, right? I mean, and the more fluently you can speak AI, I think the more opportunities you will have. And I'm not saying I don't believe it's gonna like take over jobs, or you know get rid of like positions altogether. I really feel that people who are really good at speaking AI or navigating AI and incorporating it into what they do every day is going to flourish. I'll just say that. Yeah.
that
um
makes sense to me. And I'm with you. I think it's going to create more jobs than it, removes. Similar to the internet is certainly, there's been job loss due to the internet, but I mean, goodness, whole industries now exist because of it. So,
right.
like literally social media.
I was
So
just
here
gonna
we
say,
are.
I know. I was just gonna say, my position did not exist. Like, I'm literally the first director of social media strategy at MIT, so that
Hmm.
kind of says something. But it's a people like students now, they can major in it.
Right.
So that's mind blown emoji for me. So that's come a long way. Yeah.
Well, Jenny, as we wrap up this such fun interview, again, I really appreciate that you asked me to come and interview you for
Oh
this last episode of the year.
no!
Um,
Thank you for agreeing to come on.
well, I want to hear your predictions, right? Like, we are looking to 2025, and we know that these new platforms are emerging. We know that artificial intelligence is only going to speed up in terms of the possibilities and also the adoption within our industry. And so, if you had to make one really bold prediction for the future of social, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but what is that bold prediction for next year?
Yeah, it's tough. Like bold, making bold predictions, man. They can always kind of like come back and bite you. But here,
It can even be a mediocre
I
prediction.
know.
Like, it doesn't have to be bold,
Okay,
No.
okay. I like that. Less pressure, less pressure. No, but I do think that as AI is new for you and me. There's now a generation that is growing up that has never known a world without AI. Right?
So true.
they they know it when they see it, that this is AI. So I do believe, and because AI is really helping us create content faster, better, I think that it's like for social, it's going to be less is more. It's less content, but the quality of content has to be so good, and it has to be human centered content. right? Authenticity is going to be I know we've been talking about authenticity for like a decade now, but I feel like I have that conversation over and over and over again. And I want to say, if you don't know what's authentic to you and your community and what they're looking for, like, I think you need to find out really, really quick, because that's what's going to make your, like, the human centered, based on what your audience wants kind of content, is what's going to really shine. And so, and I think they're willing to, like, for you to post less, they just want better quality content. So,
Sure. Well, that is a bold prediction,
right.
Jenny.
Yeah, I might have to eat those words and choke on them later, but that's what I'm thinking, I don't know.
Well, you know what? A year from now, I'm going to invite myself back onto your podcast,
I
and
love
we
it.
will see how it goes.
Hold me to it. Hold me to it. I like it.
So good. Well, listeners, surprise, we're going to give away another copy of Jenny's book. So if you are listening to this episode,
yay!
all you have to do is go onto LinkedIn or Blue Sky, for that matter, find one of our posts and comment that you would like a copy of Jenny's book. And we will let this run for about a week or so. When we get back from the holiday break, we'll take a look and draw some names at random. And we are so excited, Jenny, to continue to support you, but also to make sure that your really amazing book gets into the hands of more of our Enrollify listeners.
Okay, this is a surprise. Mallory just dropped this on me. So to comment on the Enrollify,
yes, find an Enrollify post
account
about this episode, whether it's on LinkedIn or Blue Sky, and we will make sure we gather up all those names and pick one or two at random.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. This was so much fun. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your 2024, a great New Year's, and listeners, we'll see you in 2025.
Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Allison Tercio, Mallory Wilsey, and so many others of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.